Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to today's episode of How You Getting Fucked. I'm your host, Louis Rossman. Today, we're going to be going over a couple of browser extensions that were found to not only be keeping track of and selling data on your browsing history, but also exfiltrating your AI chats. What this means is that if you use these browser extensions and you're on chatgpt.com, it's actively sending information on your chats to the company that made the browser extension, and they also have privacy policies that say that they sell your data. Now, what makes this practice particularly disgusting is if you go over here, I took a screenshot of it for the wiki, you'll see that their privacy policy is separate from what it shows in the Chrome store. So when you go to their privacy policy, it says categories of personal information that we collect, disclose, and sell. And there's all these different things that they disclose and sell. But then when you go to the privacy policy on the Google Chrome Web Store page, when you actually go to install the extension, it says that they don't sell data to third parties. And one of the requirements for being on the Chrome Web Store is that you don't collect or sell data that's not related to a user-facing feature. And when you're talking about a web extension whose sole job is to allow you to restyle the page, you don't have to collect all of the personal data of my chat in order for me to change the CSS on the website. That's absolute bullshit. Many of these extensions were caught by a gentleman named James Arnott at amIbeingpwned.com. So I wanted to give him a chance to come on the channel and talk about it. He has a really interesting page where he goes over and reverse engineers how this stuff works, and he shows you exactly how it is that these browser extensions are collecting all of your data. Now, what I found very interesting is that he said that he had contacted the Chrome Web Store after finding all of this. Even if you weren't interested in going through the code because that's too much work, you could simply look at the terms of service in these different web extensions and see that they say that they are selling all this data that they then say on the extension page that they're not, which is complete false advertising, and Google does not take any action. Sometimes Google will take a badge away from the extension, and what the extension will do is they'll literally just change the name of the function. So instead of collect AI chat, it'll get changed to some random shit, and the extension gets put back with the exact same spying functionality. I find this disgusting, and you heard a lot about how in the switch from Manifest v2 to Manifest v3, this was done to protect your security because there were all these browser extensions that were able to collect your data. Yet when we are on Manifest v3, and it's more difficult to have an ad blocker, and you have all these extensions on Manifest v3 that are actively collecting and fucking with user data, crickets. Without further ado, James Arnott. Thank you so much for taking the time. Here I am with James Arnott of amIbeingpwned.com. It's a great site with several products and services for threat intel, and he has figured out that a bunch of browser extensions are spying on you, and I just wanted to talk about this a little bit in the hopes that we could get enough people to understand the issue, reporting the issue, and get the Chrome Web Store to take action. So thanks for taking the time.
So good.
So the first thing that I wanted to go over here was just a very base level explain like I'm 5 explanation for people that don't know what base 64, AES 256, obfuscation is of all that. What are these extensions doing that is wrong, and why is this, and also how are they stealing your ChatGPT chats and the knowledge of what you're doing with your web browser?
Yeah, so to start off, the things that they're doing wrong is a lot of these are collecting full URLs. So every URL that you visit gets sent back to some remote servers to potentially be sold off. Or the problem is you don't know what they're doing with your data. It's just someone else has access to every URL that you visited. And the issue with this is that might include like Google Sheets, Google Docs, password reset links, anything DocuSign, for example. And you don't necessarily want to share all of this data, and of course all your browsing history. And then what they're doing to kind of obfuscate what they're sending off is that some of them are using quite advanced obfuscation. They are putting these URLs, also ChatGPT chat messages or Claude AI chat messages, through a bunch of obfuscation before sending it off. So in the case of Stylish, they had 5 different steps where they would go through and kind of mangle this data to make it very difficult for researchers to read. And including the Chrome Web Store, when they're doing their reviews, they can't really tell what data is being sent off because of this.
Okay, now what I found interesting here is that there's a contradiction in the Stylish privacy policy where it says that the company sells personal data, but if you go to the Chrome Web Store listing for it, there's a large font claim on the homepage that does not sell your personal data. So are these extensions outright saying one thing on the Google Chrome Web Store page and then something else in their actual own privacy policy?
Yes, they absolutely are. It's interesting because they at least they admit to selling personal data. The Chrome Web Store doesn't allow selling of personal data. So they get all the developers to say, "Yep, I'm not selling any of this data," and they make them list out all of the data they're collecting. But the problem is it doesn't seem to be working, and it doesn't seem to be very well enforced at the moment.
The Chrome Web Store's user data FAQ says that a product that's collecting browsing activity for any non-user facing purpose is not permitted. So you're not allowed to collect user data for something that's not user facing. And grabbing all of your ChatGPT chats is not part of making the web browser look nicer for that user, unless they're trying to figure out what emotion, like what color they think that you would like the page to be based on every piece of information on your personal life, which is obviously highly creepy. Now, what I find interesting, I could understand if they said, listen, we don't have time to go through the code of every single fucking browser extension to take it down. But if they're saying on the Google Chrome Web Store page that it does not collect your data, their own terms of service says explicitly that it does collect your personal data, and you reported them, what the fuck? Why is this extension still up? Because that doesn't even require a code review. That just requires looking at the false advertising on their own listing.
Yeah, yeah, it's not brilliant. I haven't personally reported Stylish, but what runs I have reported, and it was pretty clear that they were exfiltrating a lot more data than they should do, like including all URLs and all AI chat messages, which was configured by remote config. And I reported them. They had their featured badge taken away for about a month, and then they updated and they renamed their data collection endpoint from collect AI chats, something along those lines, to something more generic. And that was reapproved, and they got their featured badge back. So
they didn't even actually get rid of the tracking code. They just changed the name of the function to some degree so that the person reviewing it wouldn't see the same thing there.
yeah, essentially they just changed the name of an endpoint to say instead of collect AI chats, it was something more generic. So it's just, it's same behavior. I think they might have gotten away with it because they had remote config to say, so the server decides what data that they want to collect. This is AI chats in this case, but could potentially be more dangerous if the server said, yeah, collects AWS credentials, for example, or any sensitive data.
The reason I find this interesting is because there was all that hubbub about Manifest v2 having a lot of issues and moving to Manifest v3, which made it more difficult for ad blockers. And all of that was done because Google was the primary reason that they were saying was remote code execution and the ability to collect users' personal data. Now that we're on Manifest v3, you have extensions that have over 700,000 users, some of them with over 1 million users, that are actively collecting people's data. They're claiming that they collect your data. They just lie on the Google Web Store and say that they don't. And then when they get reported, they stay up. So that's just, thank you very much, Google, for that one.
Yeah, it's not great. Like, Manifest v3 did help with security, but they didn't need to take away the APIs that the ad blockers were using. So I don't know, it's a two-sided coin there. It's not great.
Now, what I want to show the users here is there's certain uses of AI that I've liked. There are people that have used it to try and unenshittify devices that have been enshittified, and I thought this is really cool, where somebody with a $25 Claude Code subscription, before you had to pay $100 for the full Claude Code subscription, were using this to get rid of limitations inside of stuff that they had already paid for. And you were using AI to find all this stuff. So can you explain how you were using it to find out that these extensions had these types of vulnerabilities and were collecting user data? Because for all the negative, shitty AI stories, of which there are many, and they deserve to be told, I want to also show people that there's some upside in this and how these tools can be used.
The way I'm doing it is I'm essentially scraping the Chrome Web Store, keeping an eye on all of the updates, and giving the code to an LLM to go through, give it a bunch of tools to search, deobfuscate, and see what the code's actually doing. And then from there, it's, AI makes mistakes. So I give it over to a sandbox where it actually runs the extension to see what it's doing. So if the first step has decided, okay, we think it might be scraping AI chats, but we don't know, then the second step can go on and actually run the extension to see it actively exfiltrating this data. And then it kind of packages it up into a nice report. So it makes it easier to understand. And like, realistically, no one's going to be able to manually look through a bunch of compressed code. It's just not feasible. So this does actually help.
Can you just tell me a little bit of how you started at mybeingpwned.com? What kind of services do you offer? What do you do? And how'd you get into this?
I just got laid off again from another YC startup. So I thought, you know what, I want to do something more meaningful with my time. And I just decided I was going to start having a look at my own extensions to see what they were doing, because I didn't really know. And it turns out I had what runs installed, which exfiltrates AI chats and URLs. I have since found many, many vulnerabilities, most of which I can't speak about, unfortunately, at the moment. And I'm doing this full time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you
Cheers.
so much for taking the time again, because I didn't record the first one properly. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can have some of these extensions get taken down, or at the very least get users who are using these extensions to understand the nefarious shit that they're doing under the hood. Do me a favor, if you are watching this video, it would be great if you could go to the consumerrights.wiki page that covers this. If you could scroll down to this table, find these extensions and report them for what it is they're doing, along with the link to the appropriate corresponding consumerrights.wiki article and amIbeingpwned.com blog post, so that we can hopefully get some action taken on these extensions and have them taken down. So far, we live in a world where the people that steal all your data and do all this type of fucked up shit usually win. But that's the point of this channel. That's the point of this entire community. The entire point of the clipping movement: do what you can, where you can, in your own corner, and try to clean it up. Let's see if we can clean up this one. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.